Welcome to the Bitcoin Business Podcast put on by Sovereign. I'm your host, Brandon Karpeles. Today I have with me Tyler Stevens from Exergy Heat or Exergy Energy. Which do you prefer, Tyler?
This is something I got to fix. Our domain is
Uh,
Exergy Heat. The business is just
yes.
Exergy.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Okay. All
yeah.
right. So no energy period. But anyways, I had the pleasure of meeting Tyler out at the Bitcoin Financial Services Summit out in Denver. And I'm sure some of you in the industry have heard about what Tyler's doing, but super cool. And this is one of those businesses where not only are they integrating Bitcoin into the business, but they're actually making products in uh, for it's kind of the trifecta. It's they're using Bitcoin as their unit of account. They are selling Bitcoin products, but they're for anyone. So it's almost like, I'm sure today we'll talk about a little bit. I'm sure today the majority of your customers are actual Bitcoiners that, want the mining. But ultimately, this is going to be one of those things where down the road, it's just like every single person, they're just going to do a cost benefit analysis of their energy costs versus putting one of these units in. And eventually it's going to make sense to just put it in. So, um, I'm sure some of you have no idea what I'm talking about because you don't know who Tyler is or what he's doing. But thank you for joining us, Tyler. So, why don't you tell us about your background, how you ended up in Bitcoin in the mining space, and then how you decided to start implementing heating solutions with Bitcoin miners?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for asking, and it's an honor to be here. We had a really good chat diving deep about this when you were here in Denver.
Literally diving deep. We went into the
Went into the
basement and
basement.
saw the whole setup.
You
Yeah.
want to see my utility closet? Like that's my MO. Just take people to the basement at the office.
Yeah. You want a windowless space to hang
Yeah.
out for a little bit? Yeah.
But yeah, so a little bit about me. My name is Tyler Stevens. I am the founder of Exergy, which is a company that's using Bitcoin miners as heating solutions, but more so like little black boxes you put in your house to maybe monetize excess energy if you have solar, offset your heating costs, and really just create that sovereign smart home from an energy level. And so that's what Exergy does. But my background is actually in mechanical engineering. I went to school up in Wisconsin, at University of Wisconsin-Madison, studied mechanical engineering. I did grad school there during COVID, not because I'm a super smart guy, but because the job market sucked. And I was like, what's 2 more years? And in that time, I focused more on thermal engineering, so heat transfer, thermal analysis. And that ultimately got me a job out in Colorado for an aerospace company, defense contractor owned by Lockheed Martin. They built rockets, kind of like the statist government version of SpaceX, is what it is, in all honesty.
SpaceX a status government entity, anyways.
There's worse ones from that
I'm sure.
perspective.
Oh, I
United
know.
Launch Alliance, yeah. So
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun there. I was working on the thermal analysis team, so I spent a lot of time modeling systems analyses, predicting temperatures, heat rates. So I was like a heat guy, and all the while I was going to the Denver Bit Devs, meeting with our strong Bitcoin community out here, falling into the rabbit hole, as I would say. And I didn't immediately come in interested in mining. I know that that's some people's entry point. Mine was like mining, I think, is more common. Like mining is one of the later things you learn about as a Bitcoiner. So as soon as I started to get into the mining rabbit hole with this energy mindset and framing, I immediately saw them as electric heaters, just with my background. And so they take electricity in, they convert pretty much 100% of that electricity, more or less, into heat, which the mega miners have to deal with. They exhaust it, and some guys had brought some of these like retrofitted industrial miners with some quiet fans and hacked them together in 3D printed cases to heat their rooms and make little space heaters. And I was immediately obsessed. So I started diving down into that. The more I learned about it, the more I also was like unhappy at my defense contractor job, getting more down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And so ultimately, I just decided to pull trigger and I just quit my job with no plan. I actually just quit my job, and it was the day of rocket launch, the day the first rocket launch that I worked on. I was at the launch site in like that mission control room at 1 a.m. Go home, sleep for a few hours, come back 9 a.m. Quit. 5 p.m. I was on a flight to Nashville to Bitcoin Park for my first ever Bitcoin conference. So I just like aped into it without a plan. And I met a good friend of mine Michael Schmidt, who is known as Schnitzel online, he built the Bitcoin hot tub, the hash tub, he calls it. And so I learned more about that there at that conference. And that ultimately led to my 2024 journey where I kept documenting all this. What are these guys doing, hacking together these Bitcoin heaters? They're doing it in homes and businesses. What software problems are they solving? What hardware problems are they solving? And that ultimately led to me putting together all these notes from the better part of a year into a book. And so I authored a book, Bitcoin Mining Heat Reuse, which came out in January of this year, 2025. And then, long story short, come April, after the book, after the Heat Punk Summit, so I kind of selfishly put together a mini conference about the book, trying to marry the Bitcoin mining and heating industries together, where we bring together folks from the HVAC trades, plumbing, electricians, energy modelers, control experts, Bitcoin mining software developers, ASIC manufacturers. We put all them in the room. That is what I called kind of the crowning achievement of like getting everyone on the same page. And after that, I said, okay, now I got to make a business around this, and that's ultimately how Exergy formed in April of this year. And our goal is to integrate hash rate into homes and businesses, bring mining back home, so it's not just so industrial and hidden in the data center style farms. And that's what we're doing, where we size, select, and help install these systems. So think of it like a heating company right now or a solar company, right? You call your guy, he tells you what you need, he helps you pick the stuff you need, he helps you size it, select it, and install it. That's what we do at Exergy.
Awesome. So, what got you into Bitcoin in the first? Because I'm the same way as you. Like mining was like the last thing. I mean, I'm still not home mine. I'm a bad Bitcoiner. I don't home mine. I'm sorry. I just refuse to
It's
pay
not
the
easy to
city
mine
of
at home. Like I know why people don't do it.
well, and it's just city of Chicago. The kilowatt hour rate is preposterous, and
Yeah.
it's just I just get mad monitoring my energy use that much. But along those lines, it was like the last thing I came to too. So, what initially interested you about Bitcoin before you sort of fell down the mining area, which that you could then marry to your actual profession?
I was actually just cooped up at my parents' house. I had finished grad school. I was maybe there for 8 weeks before my job had started out west. So I left Wisconsin. My folks are in Ohio, and I knew I was going to be moving out west. And I had a 20-hour drive on I-70 the whole way. It's like one road all the way from my parents' house to Colorado for 20 hours. And I listened to, I think Saifedean was on Jordan Peterson, just a podcast.
Yeah,
And it was one
I
of
know
the
who
first
that is.
podcasts I picked because I had been listening to JP for a while, a lost young man, I guess. Um, and I literally listened to like 19 more hours of Bitcoin podcasts on the drive. And it was just one of those situations where like YouTube recommends the next thing and you just keep clicking. Like I don't even know what I was clicking. I'm sure half of it was some shitcoin, crypto stuff, but luckily I didn't get too burned by that. Um, so, because I got here and I immediately found the Denver Bit Devs meetup. And so I avoided the whole shitcoinery just by luck. But that was how I got into it. So by happenstance.
Well, there's just no way you can say that you were listening to the Jordan Peterson podcast, and this just happens to be next to my desk. So this was a show I went to.
Oh,
I got an
nice.
autograph poster
That's
of
cool.
Jordan
Yeah, I saw his
Peterson.
show here
So
at the Paramount in Denver a
okay,
couple years ago.
there's I mean it's within arm's reach.
That's
That had to
funny.
be shown.
Yeah.
So sorry for the derivation there, but I do remember that episode. That's man, that's so interesting. That's yeah, that's fortunate too that like you said you didn't get taken down the Bitcoin rabbit. I always feel the same way for when I first got into Bitcoin. I shitcoined for a little bit, and I was like, oh, what podcast should I listen to? And I just got luckily ended up at like Rabbit Hole Recap.
Yeah.
I have no idea how, but I was like, the first like two episodes, don't shitcoin, self custody, and I was like, okay, all right, I got the message loud
That's
and
a good
clear.
one to
But I
fall
mean,
into.
yeah, but I could have been thrown to like Pomp's podcast and like aped in on Bitfinex or whatever crap he was shilling. I don't even remember, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, very very fortunate. I mean, a lot of hard lessons learned on my own, and certainly Bitcoin Standard helped step into focus Bitcoin versus crypto and those other things. But I could have definitely seen myself going down some poor custody routes if it weren't for Matt and Marty. So
Definitely.
much respect to those guys. But um, so I'm curious. You mentioned that the summit. You put together a summit already, but I know you're doing another one too, right? Is
Yes.
that
Yes.
okay?
So last February, this past February, February 2025, beginning of this year is when I had the first Heat Punk Summit at the end of February. And like I said, I had this idea. It was actually an idea that that my friend Cody had also had. He's up in Wyoming, and he does very similar stuff to me. So he installs Bitcoin heating systems in homes. He actually owns a construction business, so he's way more handy than myself. It just was second nature to him. And so we had met at a conference up in Wyoming, and Cody, his name's Cody, but we were in Cody, and yeah, so we were spitballing. We were like, well, we should bring everyone together on this, and we literally put it together in like 6 weeks. Like I think I announced it shortly after New Year's, and then third week of February it was happening.
It's incredible. And what percentage of people would you say were just like from the HVAC industry wanting to learn more? Um, Not necessarily orange pilled yet, but
That
like, hey,
was
I should probably check this out.
not as much as I had liked. Maybe a solid 15 to 20 folks. We had some really capable guys here, like a professional hydronics engineer from Jackson who's been doing this for decades. And I was actually on a call last night with Cody planning the next one, and we want to take advantage of that better and actually get those guys more involved, because I think they were there kind of just in the shadows listening. But I want them to actually, because think of the summit not like, hey, let's come, it's a Bitcoin conference, here's some talks and buy some products. It's more so we're trying to get the right people in the room to push the needle forward, because this is so like niche. It's Bitcoin's niche, mining's niche, hash rate heating is niche of niche of niche, right? And so I want to leverage those guys this coming year more. Maybe it's workshops for the guys like me. There's a handful of companies out there that are trying to build products and services to actually get these systems online easier, faster, grow adoption. And we should be chatting with those experts. What can we do to improve our stuff on our end? And so I want to do that this year.
Man, that's exactly it's sovereign. Same thing. We've been like, okay, we've gotten our name out there in the Bitcoin community. We've made a lot of great connections, but it's like, our goal is to ultimately get businesses not on a Bitcoin standard onto a Bitcoin standard.
Yeah,
So it's like, same thing I'm sure with you. Like, the Bitcoiners who are building their own mining rigs and stuff, like they can probably heat their own home. They're probably their
exactly.
toes are probably being warmed right now by a Bitcoin miner in like a crypto cloaks case,
Yeah.
or they made their own case or something. So it's like, how do we get out into this community, do right by these folks, and then have them sort of spread the word about what we're doing and what you're doing, and like, oh, hey, maybe there is, you have it even better where you have like, for us, it's more, okay, you adopt Bitcoin as your unit of accounts, you put it on your balance sheet. It's like, really, we need to wait 4 to 5 years here for you to start seeing the
Hmm.
value add. And I actually just had an interview this morning with someone, and he was like, why would a company put Bitcoin on their balance sheet? It's so volatile. Like, how does this help them right now? And I'm like, you know what? It actually doesn't help them right now. It helps them 5 years from
Yeah.
now. And like, so you really have to step back and view it in that frame from a monetary standpoint. But yours is like, hey, we're starting to convert wasted energy into money and heat right away.
Yeah, I
And
was just about to say that, because
yeah,
this literally happened. We installed our Bitcoin radiant flooring system. So we have a boiler in the basement of this that I showed you at our office and event center, and it heats the whole first floor. And we hired a plumber to do that. He was like, okay, whatever, right? But literally like 3 weeks after the install, he texted me
yeah,
and he said, hey, can you tell me more about this Bitcoin thing? And I think I pointed him to a couple resources, but I should have just pointed him to you guys. I didn't know about you at the time, because that's exactly what he needs. And then I think what you're about to say, sorry to jump the gun and build on, is it's not just the treasury where you have to wait 5 years. He can install a Bitcoin boiler that gives him 5% of the sats passively, and he can just get passive income now. That's not possible with a traditional heating system.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. In these cold weather spaces,
Hmm.
it's like, hey, why don't you look into this opportunity? And now, even better, I don't know if you guys fall into this category or not, but now I'm sure you do. They have the whole tax advantage thing where you can accelerate depreciation year one on these miners. So it's like, not, if you're going to spend money on HVAC heating anyways, now you can at least get a tax shield from that as well too.
The
So.
tax shield thing is interesting, because I need to better my understanding on this, because I think it applies to short-term infrastructure, stuff that's depreciable, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
it doesn't
Right, right,
apply
right.
to like heating infrastructure that has a 30-year life cycle. And that's where we get into
Interesting.
the nuances, which is like, well, what am I selling you? Is it a Bitcoin
Yeah.
miner or is it an electric heater? And maybe the hash board's the miner, but the case it's in with the pump and the heat exchanger is considered long-term infrastructure. So maybe the case and the pump don't get the tax break, but the expensive hash board with the chips on it does. Like, it's very nuanced.
That is interesting, right? Yeah, I guess you could have like five separate like balance sheet and income statement entries, I
Yeah.
guess, onto that. Wow. Yeah. I'll be. We'll have to check back and see where you land on that. I'm curious as to what
Well, that's a perfect
what.
example of something we should try and solve at the Heat Punk Summit. Like, just get someone
Yeah.
that's an attack expert there, and get people from the heating industry and the mining industry that have leveraged this tool before, and we'll just chat it out, try to figure it out.
Yeah, our buddy Jordan Guest, who helped Wyatt run the conference,
Hmm.
he wonder what he would have to say about this.
Exactly.
Yeah, fascinating. All right, so walk us through the setup here. So we were talking with someone who was looking to potentially go to market, and they were doing these basically like custom built saunas, and it was only going to be sold in Bitcoin, so you would have to pay in Bitcoin for it. Um, it was going to be limited distribution, blah blah blah. But the question I had for him was, okay, great, you sold one of these saunas. He happened to be overseas. Now someone wants to have it installed. I mean, you can't just have like a pool of local labor everywhere. And he said, well, this would be almost like a kit that you would assemble, and it doesn't require a ton of skill. And so we would just need to build relationships with local contractors, and they would do it. So walk me through sort of start to finish. Someone says, okay, I want to do some portion of my heating or all of my heating. I want to do the mining. What does the process look like?
Yeah, this is the problem we identified too. So that story aligns with what I would expect, which is the crypto cloaks kits that you alluded to. The savvy Bitcoiners that are do-it-yourself type guys, they built their own Start 9 node from an old desktop. They're going to figure that out. They're going to do it. The non-savvy folks that maybe just have the ETF or just don't have time for it because people are busy, they might buy a heat bit, right? Just like a plug and play Bitcoin space heater. You plug it in, connect it to Wi-Fi. They built an awesome product that's pretty polished. There's a few others out there like the Canaan Avalon home miners. But as soon as it's not a gadget, that's where we found people don't install it themselves. They don't even pick it themselves. When you need a water heater or a furnace or a boiler or a pool heater, you just call the guy. And he's like, it needs to be this big. It needs to talk to this thermostat you already got. You don't want to know anything else. Like, it lives in your utility closet. You turn the thermostat on and it works. And that's for commercial businesses. I mean, commercial businesses are a little bit easier in the sense that some of them will have operators, right, where a guy's trained to just run that machine. But that's the challenge we're aiming to solve. And so how it works, the structure that we put in place is step one is figure out what you need. And it's common in the heating industry to just get a free quote, right? Like, how many square feet is your house? Where do you live? How cold is it? And these guys use rule of thumbs. Like, you need 30 BTU per square foot. That's a measurement of heat, stuff like that. And I immediately figured out, well, not immediately, but from running some numbers, because I have an engineer brain, that sizing technique like doesn't work for Bitcoin heat. And the reason is traditional heating systems are sized for liability, for insurance. They're sized to make sure your Chicago home is 70 degrees when it's negative 40 outside and you're not going to freeze. And that's marginally more expensive. It's not a big deal because at the end of the day, you just burn more gas through it or more fuel. You open the valve longer, more flame, more heat. But with a Bitcoin miner, like, every additional watt or BTU of heat, you need more chips, which is more expensive. And the way these gas systems work is it's okay if you don't burn more gas. They just run less often. Maybe you'll run 5, 10 minutes out of the hour. But your Bitcoin heating system makes money, and you don't want to spend a crap load of money on a bunch of chips you're never going to use. So, long story short, like, there's this happy medium where you want to size the Bitcoin heater for its maximum utility. You want to use it as often as possible, not oversize it. So there's this sweet spot. And that's where we built this service called the Heat Audit. We charge a service fee for it right now just because it's a manual model that myself and my co-founder Dylan execute. I ultimately want this to be like an online tool because then I can get other heating guys to learn it and do it, right? But how it works is you give us some info about the weather where you live, right? So the climate that usually drives the heat load. If you have utility bills, that's super helpful because then I can just look like, oh, Brandon bought this much gas. Like I don't have to guess how much heat he used in the past 12 months. I can just see it. If you don't have that, if it's a new build, we try to model that. That's where my thermal modeling comes in from my previous experience. And so we'll estimate your heat load based on the weather, maybe your architecture drawings, square footage, things like that. And what this returns is like not just you need this big of a heater to keep you warm at 20 degrees. It actually results in like a heat load profile throughout the year. And a heat load, because it's just energy, can be converted to a wattage load. And a wattage load, when you pick a mining efficiency, gets converted into a terahash. And a terahash gets converted into dollars or sats. And so if you think about this, like we can look at your energy consumption and extrapolate how much sats you're going to earn. All this essentially spits out our best recommendation for you want to heat a pool, you want to heat a sauna, you want to heat an HVAC system, you want to heat a commercial business. Here's the best bang for your buck. This is what you should buy. Here's how fast it's going to ROI. Here's your total cost of ownership. Here's how it compares to your previous heating bills. This is this heat audit analysis. That's like step one. I'll pause there because that was a lot. And then we can talk about like the install and where we go after that.
Yeah. Okay. So, a couple questions. So, in some cases, is this done in conjunction with the current HVAC system and it acts as a supplement? Is this meant to be a full replacement?
You hit the nail on the head. Because they're sized more for your average heat load, not the worst case scenario, they almost always make sense. They always make sense to have as like a supplemental buddy heating system. And so the benefit there is if you have a furnace, if you have a boiler, we're not going to say you should rip it out, right? You just supplement it and it will run less. And then on that coldest day, your furnace will just pick up the slack. Now, if it's a new build, we have had people say, well, I want to do the whole house on Bitcoin. I don't want a traditional system. There's ways around that. I mean, you can get some space heaters, maybe. Often a lot of Bitcoiners that are interested in this are rural folks because it's cold up in the mountains by me and they have expensive propane. And so for them, like they already have a wood stove and things like that. So it hasn't been a huge issue. I haven't really encountered someone who's like, I'm solely committed to doing Bitcoin only heat and I'm going to spend the extra money to make it work even when it's -20 outside because it wouldn't be the most economical.
Right. You start to get into diminishing returns.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and then obviously you would do some sort of analysis where it's like, here's what you were running at monthly, and here's the offset to that. And,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, or you could just roll the dice, replace with HVAC, and then try to survive the 2 days it's negative
Yeah.
20. See
Yeah.
how that works out for you. Um, yeah, we had a week like that last year in Chicago. It's like -8 to -12
There you go.
every single day. It was just even with the heat, it was still brutally cold. We had to run the fireplace and everything. It
Dang.
was rough times. Yeah, the windows. I mean, the windows and doors just they can only hold out so much cold.
I don't miss that as a former Wisconsinite.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Yeah.
Denver's
It was
very
probably
mild.
worse up in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It is. Anyways, I digress. Okay. So let's move on to step two then.
Okay.
So you've done this analysis. Here's the offset. Now what?
Step two is where we procure the hardware, which seems simple, but if anyone is listening and has ever purchased a miner, it's not like some polished, mature industry. I mean, these miners are sourced on Telegram chats and the price changes every second. And depending on who you ask and how much they like you and how much you're ordering, you get different deals. I mean, it's really not a great scenario. So we're doing our best there with our relationships that we've built. Um, Ultimately, the point there on that challenge is like not a lot of miners are, and this leads into the next step. Not a lot of miners, well, no miners are really designed to be used as heating systems, right? Where we don't run the miner full time. So for anyone listening, I want to make that clear. It's not like this runs 100% power like it would in a Bitcoin mining operation and you just pull the heat off of it. No, we design the systems where the miner runs as you need heat and you're pulling sats off of it. So you are just doing your heating, nothing changes, and sats just show up in your wallet. And so this transitions to how do we make that happen with these miners that are intended to run full power in a data center? It's a big control problem. And so this is where we've spent a lot of our time building out this control solution. We kind of pair these systems depending on what you need. The miner, it's just a little kit, like a little black box. and it runs an operating system called Home Assistant. And you can think of it as a free and open source home IoT software. It's say you had a Google Nest and a Ring doorbell and an Amazon Alexa. You can like pair all these things together. So even if they're from different brands, you can control the lights in one room, the Ring doorbell, the locks from Slage or whatever. And the benefit is my friend Michael Schmidt, who built that hash tub, that Bitcoin hot tub, he built an integration where you can connect miners to it. And so now all of a sudden the miners are part of smart home infrastructure. And that's where we start to build out the control setup, which is custom for every home. Okay, you need the smart thermostat to replace the dumb one you had for your furnace because now we have this digital heater strapped to your furnace and we need everything to talk together. Or we need a temperature sensor in this room or on the miners. So we do all that. And that's everything we kind of bake together before we ultimately go out there and be a part of that install. We are not licensed plumbers, electricians, HVAC techs. We get those guys. We subcontract them under us. If the customer wants to do it themselves, that's fine. We can also do it. So we're building relationships in that department, and then we kind of go in and we do the hand holding and the special sauce to marry everything together at the end.
So, actually, a question I just thought of. So, like in the summer, what are these just not running, or
This is a newer development from us, which because I was so focused on hash rate heating earlier in the year when I started the company, I totally blindsided the fact that depending on your situation, you can do stuff in the summer. So our office here, the building I'm in, has 40 kilowatts of solar. It's very common in Colorado. There's a lot of subsidies. It's very sunny. We have 300 days of sun a year. There's a lot of solar. And so in our building, the system I showed you downstairs, we actually, through this Home Assistant software, if we don't need heat or the thermostat's not on, it automatically turns the pump off to the floors. So it's not sending heat to the radiant floors. And then in that Home Assistant software, we are bringing in because the solar inverter also talks to Home Assistant, so it tells us how much we're making in real time. So we bring in the Bitcoin price, the Bitcoin mining network metrics, the solar flux. Home Assistant knows how much kilowatts of mining power we have here, and it calculates in real time. It goes, is it free to mine Bitcoin right now? Yes. Turn on, and it dumps the heat outside. So our building, and we want to do this on homes too. We don't have a customer with solar yet. To your point about summer, is like that's why I call it the sovereign smart home is our vision at Exergy, not just hash rate heating, because you can think of your home or your business in real time. It's just saying, okay, energy's flowing in, this guy's calling for heat, this operation needs heat. Like, what is the best bang for buck to do at any given moment? There are times, we actually have this on this building too, where hash price might dip, mining rewards dip, the Bitcoin price dips, and it's cheaper to heat with natural gas. Our building intelligently switches over to gas. It just won't run the miner. So we're not doing anything. It's all automated.
uh, that's incredible. So, I mean, but something do you guys do like water heater applications as well?
The water heater is, everyone asks about this.
Okay,
And I really want to just have a standalone water heater product. No one's done it yet. Of all the heat punks, the people building these systems, hardware, software, and then installation, like we're doing too with Exergy, no one's done the water heater yet. It's a huge market. Just for the listeners to blow their minds, if all the water heaters in the US were converted to mining water heaters, it would 5x the Bitcoin network hash rate. Just United States water heaters.
well, and then throw on top of that, what about like washing machines
Yeah,
and
there's so many.
dryers? And yeah, oh my
But
gosh,
the
yeah,
challenge goes back to my point that these systems, these miners aren't designed to run like heaters. And
right.
so the problem with a water heater is it's a closed tank. It's like 50 gallons. And what happens is you heat it up to 120 degrees and then the flame stops and it waits for you to use it. It just stores the hot water like a big battery, a hot thermal battery. Well, as you fill that tank with heat, it essentially gets harder and harder to shove more heat into it. It's the same problem electric cars have. Like as they get closer to 100% charge, they take slower to charge. Or you're filling a stadium, the more full it is, the harder it is to find your seat. That's the analogy people use. And so what that means is the miner has to like walk down in power as it's warm, as the tank's warming up in temperature. And these things just have such terrible firmware and control that that's not a slick process right now.
So we need some better firmware to
Yes.
make that feasible. Okay, all right. Well, all the minor manufacturers out there, listen up here. So, um, okay, so in an example like the hot tub scenario, so how are they heating their water? They just have a big pool of water and you can just heat it directly and it's open, so it's not storing the heat, or how does
Well,
that
the
work?
hot tub, I guess it's a little easier because it's a larger volume. If it's open, it's leaking some heat. It's not as
Right.
insulated like a closed container. If the lid's on, it is similar problem that the water tank has. So the way people are solving for it right now is what is called in the heating industry bang bang or on off. You just like, and it's how the flame works. Flame, no flame, flame, no flame, and you add up all the times the flame's on, and that equals a certain amount of heat. And you can do that with a miner. It's not really good for the machine. Like think of it just like unplugging the cord on
Yeah,
your
sure.
computer while it's running, because that's essentially what you're doing. Unplug
It's
computer,
like
plug in
city
computer.
driving versus
Yeah.
highway driving.
And so that works right now because the firmware's so terrible, but I almost view it as like a hack solution.
Okay. So, all right. So and I'm sure all of this stuff is coming. I'm sure you've seen improvements in this space over time, or is this something that like is just getting no attention? No one really cares.
This is actually an interesting point. It's twofold. The solutions are coming, but the mining manufacturers are not the ones bringing it. The chip manufacturers, we actually have like straight up an adversarial relationship with all these companies. My friend Kent, who is the CEO of SAS Mining that does hosted mining, said it best. You go to a Bitcoin conference and there's no miners there, and you go to a mining conference and there's no Bitcoiners there. These companies don't care about Bitcoin. They don't care about open source nature of Bitcoin. They have Bitmain, for example, has 80% market share. I mean, they literally are bad actors. They've been caught red-handed instituting backdoors into the firmware. They run these machines. This is, by the way, I think this is crazy. They run them to break them in, right? Quality control. And the break-in period, I've heard rumors, just happens to be as long as it takes to make their money back on the machine. So they make 100% profit. What other machine on earth can you do that with? Only money printers. So they're like just not good actors. They don't care about any of this stuff. And the silver lining is the 256 Foundation and Proto, which is a company under Block, and 256 Foundation's a 501c3 that are trying to like open source the whole mining stack. Let's make a Linux based distro for the firmware, for the control board, for the hash board, for the mining pool, which is really just going to serve as building blocks so companies like mine and others can go, thank goodness we don't have to like use these Chinese slot machines and hack them into what we want.
Man, as we always say, we're so early.
Yeah.
So, so okay, all right. So along those lines, okay, now you've got someone that's interested. Um, how are you contracting the labor?
Just by reaching out to tradesmen in the area. We're using referrals from friends. We have a really strong and active Bitcoin community out here. We have 82 or 3 members here at the space, our Bitcoin incubator and co-working event space. And so a lot of it is just like, hey, do you have a plumber that you like? Hey, do you have an HVAC guy that you like? Oh, I already got mine to accept Bitcoin. Like that's a great step. And using those resources, we've definitely hit some barriers where we have someone out and then they'll back away and say, I'm not comfortable doing this. But then often these guys are just looking for a competitive edge. And so I wouldn't say we have like any polished partner relationships yet where I have a guy I can trust and he knows how to go do all the work that I'm doing right now, that Exergy's doing. That's ultimately the end state. Like I would love to build the products, but right now I think we have to build like the Denver heating company, right? To do the hand holding.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Do you have customers outside of the general Denver area, or is it like we're starting local and then going out from there?
We've done some of these heat audit analyses for folks in Wyoming and neighboring states, Utah, even some in Canada, because Canada obviously makes a lot of sense. It's cold up there. There's some rural folks. We haven't completed an install outside of Colorado yet. And so it's one of those situations where I think if the project is right, like we'll do it and we'll make our way out there. But I think it has to kind of flourish local, and then you get good market penetration in a place where it saves a lot of people money. You get a plumber in a town up in the mountains to convert 10 houses because the neighbors all heard about it. And then you scale from there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. couldn't agree more. I mean, you get that buy-in, you have people watch it actually work for them, and then all of a sudden they start telling other people about it, and then you know that's how you go from there. So, um, like what would you say? What would you say like excites you the most about your company potential? How like what is the product where you're like, okay, this is very easy, it's very intuitive, this is just plug and play, anyone can figure this out. We know this is going to be a winner. What do you have for that?
I've been trying to paint the picture in my head on this for a while. Like, what is the killer product? And I do think it's like literally just a little black box. Doesn't have to look like a furnace, doesn't have to look like a water heater that goes in your utility closet and it straps to your furnace that you already have. I think the miners will actually be water cooled because then the same product can heat water. And if you want to heat air, you just run the hot water through a radiator like on your car, like what's called a fan coil unit. And you can do that and dump that heat into your furnace ductwork. So it's literally just a little box where the hash boards are your sizing, right? And so it's like your home's in an extra cold climate, you need 8 hash boards worth of heat. I'm in Colorado, it's more mild than Chicago. I need 6 hash boards worth of heat. I strap it to whatever thing is going to absorb that heat. And then because it's water cooled too, you can just run a tube off of it to a little fan coil outside to bleed heat if you have solar. So it's like just this little black box that's with this brain with Home Assistant that just says, okay, I'm connected to this. I got solar. I can also tap into the water heater. I have a way to dump heat outside. I got all my data inputs. Let me just do my thing and I'm going to try and maximize sats flow into this house.
Then okay, so then who's doing all like the technical setup? Are you guys just going out and doing the connecting to the Wi-Fi, connecting to a pool? Do you give people pool options?
Yeah,
What's that process?
it is us right now. That's the special sauce hand holding because like the boiler we have downstairs, the plumber figured it out, no problem. It's
Right,
just an
right.
electric boiler for him. It's power. There's one extra plug, which is Ethernet or a Wi-Fi dongle, and then it's hot and cold in and out for water. But then actually, it's beyond his capabilities to go set up the mining pool right now.
For now.
Yes,
Yeah.
for now. And so that's what we're doing, and that's where we'll set up the Home Assistant. I do have some concerns about Home Assistant in that sense because it's meant to be a home OS that can input anything into the house. It's not like a slick setup process where it's like I bought a bunch of light bulbs and door sensors and a camera from Ring, and then the app is super easy to set it all up. It walks you through it because this is more manual intervention. You have to get the right integrations. And so that's actually our area of focus right now is can we build an Exergy application into Home Assistant where it's kind of like a setup wizard and it asks you these questions like, what do you got? What'd you strap this to? Do you have solar? Log in if you do. What kind of solar? Do you have a smart thermostat? Oh, great. It's a Venstar. Log in, give me the API there. Where it could kind of be maybe not the homeowner, maybe if they're savvy, but it could at least be taught to these tradesmen who are more and more becoming more and more familiar with smart homes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so say something breaks down or falters, do you just have like on-call people, a maintenance package, or what's
This is something I'm really excited about because they are digital heating systems. I believe that at sovereignty of the home, I didn't answer your last question. Yes, the customer can choose their own mining pool. Um, but we are configuring our systems, if you opt into it, to push data to us. And so that would say, give us your when you're calling for heat, your solar flux, if you have it, it would tell us your hash rate, right? And you can opt out of this and it's totally sovereign. It stays in your house. The Bitcoiners like that. Everyone else on earth just has no problem that their camera watching over their baby monitor goes to like Ring's server. But so that's a whole nother topic of discussion. But the 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 data to us is ultimately to build what we want is remote monitoring. So I want because these are digital heating systems, and if I have all these inputs from this sovereign smart home, then we should be able to predict or even see, hey, hash rate's like 20% less than it should be. I don't know if there's something wrong with that pump or this temperature spiked. And like, let's send the tech out there before they even know there's a problem. Because that would be really cool. And I think that's what's worth the maybe 5% hash rate split. where the customer says, okay, I don't have to pay $500 when the guy comes change my air filter. I'm going to give him 5% of the hash rate split. He's just going to take care of me.
Yeah, it's just like almost like a retainer. It's like
Exactly.
that's a hash split retainer.
Yeah.
I like that. Awesome. And I assume you can pay for everything in Bitcoin or
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course. So so when did you guys officially launch?
April of this year. So I had
Okay.
all the while when I was doing my book, I had kind of become somewhat of a subject matter expert in the field, and so I was doing some consulting here and there. And this ultimately just became something I found more and more often people were interested in. Like, I want to do this, but I don't know what I need. And so that was where we put together this heat audit structure for this model. Like, think of it like the sizing and recommendations and system selection for hash rate heating, and we launched with that in April.
Awesome. And I assume Bitcoin Treasury and all
Mhm.
that good stuff. And so yeah. Um, so as you're going forward here, as you're sort of looking to this, I mean, is there a let me step back. Is there a market out there of people coming to you who are not Bitcoiners at all? Are like are they getting referred in maybe from a contractor? Was it a Bitcoiner, or they're just like, hey, I heard this is some tax savings, or I heard I could defray some of my electricity cost, and I'm just kind of wandering in here, not really knowing what I'm doing. I'm just curious if there's any of those folks.
Not yet. All of our inbound right now are folks that are listening to Bitcoin podcasts or following Bitcoin Twitter, um, or seeing talks at conferences and whatnot that I've been a part of. But I hope that day comes. I mean, we've had the wide range of Bitcoiners from everything from open source developers that are packaging Stratum v2 for StartOS. So that's very in the weeds. We don't need to go
Yes.
there for that setup install. Like, he's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
All the way to gentlemen that are like, I have an ETF and I've never mined, but I heard this on a talk and I want to do it. So
Awesome. Well, I hope we can get some more folks your way on that too. I mean, that's kind of that that's what you're talking about. Have you explored the because we're kind of thinking about the same thing. Like, okay, how do we get out to talked about a little bit at the beginning. Like, how do we get out to the normie for folks? How do we get in front of them? Have you thought of like I don't know, like heating trade shows or energy summits or
yes,
do you have an in to any of those places like to get in front of those people? Because to me that's like that to me it's like such a obvious place to start orange pilling these people. Like, do you want to save money? Like, do
yeah,
you want to, especially people, you think about some of these businesses have these massive warehouses and they're heating it or they're cooling it or whatever, and it's just like it's a massive expense to them. It's like, do you want to lower that by 20%, by 30%? So I'm just curious your yeah.
yes. I, we are planning to go to the largest HVAC conference in Vegas in early February, AHR, I think it's called, um, recommended by some folks that I've been chatting with in the heating industry. I've not yet gone to a heating or energy conference yet. I'd like to ultimately keep polishing our data collection here and maybe do something like an ASHRAE journal entry or something like that to get it in front of those folks. But I think that's what we need to be doing. Not to say it's bad to go to Bitcoin conferences, but I'm almost like, okay, everyone thinks this is cool, but our energy needs to be spent on like solving all those problems I just outlined to you. And really a lot of that is, well, the mining industry doesn't seem to want to help us at all. So what do I need to pay attention to? The open source mining developments and the heating industry. And that's really like what I've been focused on with Heat Punk, and we're going to do it again this year. I've got some guys that build software for sizing traditional HVAC systems that are coming. I've got guys that are energy modelers. I've got guys that are come from controls companies that do massive control systems for greenhouses and commercial buildings. But that's a little bit selfish. Like, I bring them to me, but I also need to be going out there into the field and spreading adoption out there.
Yeah, I mean it really is like those are the people we need to be getting in front of, and they're the ones that need to hear about this, and ultimately that's what we're here to do is to spread the word about Bitcoin. And you're in a little different situation in that, I mean, if it was just at the end of the day, if it was just the whole Bitcoin community, buying this stuff from you, I guess that's fine too. But it's just such a massive market out there of untapped folks, and I just think you have such a cool and obvious product that it's one of those things too where you speak these folks' language, and it's like there's
Yeah,
just no way that doesn't click immediately with all of
I hope you're right. Yeah. They're fun to talk to too. I mean, I love it. It's
them. Oh yeah,
funny to
they're
think
all
about where
yeah.
Bitcoin takes you, right? It's like I'm trying to talk to plumbers.
Oh, I it's so crazy the amount of people you come across in this, and even just, I mean, going to the bit devs here and just how different what everyone's doing is. It's so crazy. It's all across the board, and um, but that's what
Totally.
makes it fun. Yeah. All right. So are you doing it in February again? The heat punk.
Yes.
Um,
February 27th and 28th. Um, the website is just denver.space. There's an event tab. Let me find the hyperlink here. denver.space/heatpunk_summit. And I do have a request invitation on here now, not because I want to keep people out. I'm in a good scenario where it's just like I already have more than 200 people asking for tickets in this building. You saw it. Like it can,
yeah.
it's a great space, but I think we can fit like 150 here. And we do have a focused mission, which is I want to get the right people in the room. Right. And so I want to do a better job this year getting folks from the heating industry here. And so I'm not trying to, I just, if anyone wants to come, would love to have you request a ticket early so I can get you marked on the list in order so that I can chip away. And then ultimately, once the timing's ready and I got the confirmations from the HVAC folks, then I'll just make a public ticket link.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too where, like, if you actually make someone take the step to request a ticket, like, you the chances they're going to show up probably went up by like 85% just with
Mm-hmm.
that simple step. Whereas if you're just like, sign up, it's free,
Yeah,
probably like half the people would show up that say they're going to come. So
exactly.
yeah, we had like 150 at the financial services, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was pretty. If it wasn't such a beautiful weekend and people could just be outside and kind of, I think that would have been pretty tight in there.
Yeah, I think we had 140 last year. It was February. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It snowed 6 inches on day one,
Oh gosh.
and then it was 50 and sunny on day two. So you got to see both sides. Um,
So everything just melted, and
all the snow melted. We had the Bitcoin hot tubs out back. We had three of them running. That was awesome. They were too hot. We were dumping snow into them. We're going to do that again this year. We're getting a bigger hot tub. We're getting a 10-man hot tub.
oh wow. So
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't get to enjoy the hot tubs
I'm
out
trying
there
to make
with
it
you.
a
I think
permanent installment. So next BFS, you'll get to
yeah.
benefit from it.
All right, I was gonna say I feel cheated. No hot tub out. I mean, we could have had some Ben Justman wine sitting in the hot tub out there, and that would have
Yeah.
been
Now you're
yeah,
talking. Yeah.
yeah. Go from suit to bathing suit, and
Right.
yeah,
Right.
hop in the hot tub.
Yeah.
That would have been ideal. Um, awesome. Well, anything else you want to get to here, Tyler? I mean, it's so fascinating to me. It's such a cool product. It's just one of those things where you just look at it and you feel like you're living in the future because you're just like, why wouldn't every single place have it? Just doesn't make sense not to have this. Like, um, obviously the expertise that you bring to it and the local team you've assembled and putting that together, but you know, other people will learn this skill eventually, and they're going to be able to implement it in whatever their local market is, and then it's just going to get to a point where it's like you're just kind of a fool not to do this. Like,
Yeah. I hope
yeah,
it's just eventually a standard offering from the 10,000 tradesmen heating and plumbing companies out there across the United States that offer you a system. They recommend you a system already when something breaks or you need a replacement.
yeah, or just even like I'm the president of an HOA. It's the worst job in the world. I don't want to do it. I'm forced to do it because everyone's a lazy sack in my building. But like uh, the amount of contracts they have, and hey, we can get you a bulk deal. It's like an HOA would be foolish to be like, hey, do you want to get your residents heating costs down by 20%? all those common areas you're heating as well that cost the building a bunch of money every year. Do you want to bring that down? I mean, I even think about like the garage we have in our building. We turn those space heaters on and they're freaking expensive, man. And they keep the
Hmm.
garage at 52 degrees or something, which it's better than 2, but it's not a utopia or anything like that. But I mean, why wouldn't we just have a Bitcoin miner up there instead of, hanging down from the roof and just blowing the air into the garage? And that's something you could run 24/7, essentially.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, there's
I mean,
so
that
many
would,
opportunities out there. I guess I just finished by saying, if you're interested, reach out to us, exergyheat.com. The savings are pretty interesting. I know that it really does depend on the situation you're in and what your goal is. So I'd finish by saying, like, how it works is you tell us, okay, I'm on propane, I'm on natural gas, I'm on heating oil in New England or whatever, and here's my electric rate, and we'll tell you what's best and how much you can save. And a little bit of a teaser is like, if it's cold and rural where you live and fuel's expensive, these stored fuel sources are low hanging fruit: propane, heating oil, wood. I've seen, like, we, just to give the details, like one of the heat audits was for a hot spring up in the mountains. So it's naturally heated from geothermal, and then they supplement it to kind of make it like a little Airbnb resort with tiny homes, and there's hot tubs for your family. And they use propane. They spent 22 grand last year on propane. They have three-phase power. It's 7 cents a kilowatt hour because it's commercial. We ran the analysis. Their bill would go from 22 grand of propane to 23 grand for electric. So it's 1 grand more expensive. And they would mine $30,000 worth of Bitcoin in a year.
wow.
And so he's going to get
Yeah,
paid 7 grand to heat. I
yeah.
mean, he's going to save so much money. And so, not to say that everyone's in that scenario, but it could be upwards of 100% savings or more, and that's what the heat audit figures out. So happy to help anyone that's curious.
And what is like the rough cost of a heat audit? I know it depends on
We just, for
obviously.
residential, the heat audit's $500. So that's our
Okay.
service fee.
Oh,
Yep, you give us your bills, we have a conversation, get some info about your house, architecture drawings if we need it, where you live, give us a couple weeks, and then you're off to the races.
that's so. Are you able to do this in like a commercial space as well, where they're say you're part of like a giant? I'm just thinking. I have some people actually in mind that actually run Bitcoin miners in their office space. Um, but obviously the electricity comes through some sort of shared agreement or whatever. So would you just almost run it like a space heater, and then you're just your unit is on less, or
That's a good question for the multi-use commercial buildings, because
yes,
in
yeah,
some ways,
exactly.
in some ways, if people have space heaters in their cubicles or offices, like, you can just mine for free if it's a Bitcoin space heater. I will say though that we're really ecstatic about this. We just got our first commercial contract signed where we are actually a subcontractor under the developer, so under the architecture. So it's like investor, developer, architecture, and then all the subs: the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and we're the Bitcoin one. And so we're actually working directly with the mechanical firm and the MEP team, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. And we got our first CAD drawings back, I think, a week or two ago, where it says like Bitcoin miners here next to it. And that's more of an integrated system. And so a lot of these commercial buildings have these big giant boxes on the roof. They're called rooftop units,
Yeah, yep,
RTUs.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm thinking of. So
So we're
yeah,
going to design, ultimately, that's the goal, is a rooftop unit, which is a fan coil unit. So this is like a standard system from Lennox, which makes huge rooftop units. They're a giant company, and you run hot water through it. Typically, you might make that hot water with natural gas or whatever your fuel source is. Our hot water is going to be coming from Bitcoin miners. And then you run a fan coil unit, and then boom, HVAC system solved for the whole building.
that's awesome. And this is new construction, right?
New construction. Yep.
So I'm curious about these, like you said, this multi-use office buildings. If you could plug something in and how that would work. I guess it would kind of depend on the contract, if your unit's individually metered or what. But I mean, to that point, um, I guess if there's some sort of shared power arrangement, I guess you should just be plugging miners and and put them in a box and do it that way.
Yeah, that you just gave me an idea, because like, if you can measure that, the sats, the hash rate over time, and you know the efficiency of the miner, then that's effectively another way of measuring the wattage. It's like you can indirectly measure the wattage. So you could, with a Bitcoin heater, like a space heater, You could determine like, oh, this small business in this part of this multi-use building, they use 70% of the heat. Let's charge them
Yeah.
70% of the electric bill. You could do that.
Yeah. I mean, right. But then the question is, yeah, exactly. Did you mine enough Bitcoin to like
Right.
offset the,
That's what the
yeah,
heat audit's for. We'll figure it out.
yeah. Yeah. So now you've got to do, now you got a home audit. Now you're going to have to do a like skyscraper audit.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I would love to do. I mean, I do think this is something we didn't touch on, which is the commercial projects are easier in some ways and harder in others. They're easier in the sense that the miners are industrial devices already, right? And so if you have a maintenance room and a maintenance guy and they need three-phase power, there's not all of them need three-phase power, but that's a big limitation for residential. There's way more option in the three-phase realm. Um, Control systems are more robust, things like that. That makes them easier on the commercial end. They're harder on the sense that, and this is exactly why they're easier for residential, Bitcoin miners do not have UL or CE certification. So you can't get we're going to have to solve this for this project, this new build construction. Like, I don't know how we're going to get it through building code because I can't insure it as a heating system. And so if you're a residential homeowner, you can kind of do whatever the hell you want, you know?
Interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and to your point, if these, these miners are almost combative, they're
Yeah.
not going to get a UL certification. I mean, that's like, so that would be such a
Well,
waste
they
of
won't
money
waste
for
the money on it because the mega
exactly.
miners,
Yep.
like, they don't care about it. They'll just run them in a
Yeah.
data center. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Man, so many things to figure out, so many opportunities. Like everything in Bitcoin, it's like the frontier, the Wild West out here. And
100%.
well, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I mean, I can't even imagine.
Likewise.
Well, I can't imagine because I was there for 20 years and it sucked ass. So, yeah,
But hey, man, I'm going to have to point some tradesmen your way when they want to say, I need to learn more about Bitcoin. How do I actually, maximize what it can do for me in my small business? A lot of these folks, how many heating companies are in Denver? Probably 100, Like, what does one offer? What advantage does one have over the others? I guess how good your service is, right?
yeah.
There's no like trade secrets in any of this. And so
Oh,
Bitcoin can set them ahead.
I mean, and we're the same way. It's just what's the trade secret in professional services around Bitcoin? It's just we have a platform, we've done it, we know what we're doing, and we give best in class service. And like,
That's
you
all you
know,
can do.
that's all we can do. And then save our money in Bitcoin.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much it. And yeah, it's the same thing for any professional service, right? Just ours was with Bitcoin, yours was with plumbing, or yours was with HVAC or
Exactly.
whatever. And so it's no different. But and I absolutely as we start talking to these folks and um I definitely want to get the tax thing figured out. We've gotten a lot of inquiries about using miners as tax deferment, and I would love to just be like, yeah, just redo your HVAC system.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it.
Me too. Me
Well,
too. If I'm going to
yeah.
play the game to use all the government programs in our favor to like Trojan horse a Bitcoin future, I might as well. And I also think I should lean into the carbon cultism for that reason as well. These Bitcoin heaters have no emissions; they're electric, right? That's like a big push in where I live in jurisdictions like Denver.
Yeah, I mean, don't tell them where the electricity comes from, but
No,
well, I guess if it is solar, but well,
yeah,
it obviously took nothing to build those solar panels. Those were just
right,
magic fairy dust came together and made a
yep,
solar panel. But we don't need to talk about that. So,
exactly.
yeah. Awesome, Tyler. Well, okay, so the website's Exergy Heat. How can people reach out to you? Where can they follow you? Where do you want to send people outside the website?
You can find me online by my full name. I wasn't one of those pseudonymous Bitcoiners, unfortunately. Cat's out of the bag at Tyler K. Stevens everywhere and exergyheat.com to see what our company does. There's a contact button on all of our pages there. That's the best way to get like in our pipeline to say I want to do something Exergy related, but otherwise just reach out to me and would love to chat.
Well, I was an anonymous person, plebe anon on Nostr, and now I'm doing this, so I'm doxxed anyways. So having a pseudonym when you decide to be the public face of a business
It's
doesn't do you
tough.
any good anyways.
No.
So might as well have just started off with my real name, but you did it right. Here we are. So
Yes,
Tyler, thank you so much for your time. This is the coolest. This is one of the thing. This is one of those things that I've been like talking about for years. Where it's like I don't know how far away we are, but like we will be living in a future where just every building has this because you're going to be a fool not to do it. And yeah, so excited for you and your business. And we're definitely going to have a follow up on this meeting. Probably 6 9 months down the road, and we'll circle back up on this.
definitely. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
That way.